the questions from some of our listeners here, and there was one that came
there's
in
listener questions.
that actually is I'm actually really curious to hear what your thoughts are on this too, because it's very timely. It's coming in from Whitney. Any recommendations for essential workers to stay in the leadership mindset during this time? I find that right now I'm stuck in a cycle of feeling exhausted / defeated, etc. as a healthcare worker, and then feeling guilty for having those feelings because I have a job, home, and sense of security. Does anyone else relate to this cycle?
Yeah, look, one, thank you. Like, seriously. And I know that's overdone and it probably seems disingenuous by this point, but when we were getting ready to go on and all the noise was happening outside, that noise hasn't dissipated. At 7:30 in Toronto, people go out onto their balconies. I don't know if this is elsewhere, and make a ton of noise, bang on pots, all in support of the frontline healthcare workers. And it's still deafening. It still scares the crap out of me. And I'm like, why is my horse ringing on Red Dead Redemption? And then I take off my I'm like, oh, but here's the thing.
Ah, such a good game.
And we talked about this when we did the live show after my late girlfriend passed away.
Right.
I've now decided it's late girlfriend because ex was just a weird phrase. When she passed away, what really got me wasn't so much the emotions I was feeling is how I judged myself for those emotions. And, you know, we are all experiencing grief right now, which I found really, when I first heard that, I'm like, we're being a little dramatic here. But no, it's right. We are experiencing grief and the difficulty. And she died by suicide, which, by the way, I don't think when we last talked, I had been exposed to the power of that phrase, died by suicide, as opposed to killed yourself or took their own life. I did not realize how crucially grateful those of us who've lost people in that way find that very small shift in language, died by suicide, because there's a lack of blame there. But to go back to Whitney, the thing about suicide is that it takes grief, which is difficult as it is, and wraps it up also with anger and guilt, right? Because why didn't I know? Why couldn't I do anything? And then there's just like, and you hate yourself for it, because then you think, there is a moment where you're so angry. There's more than one moment where you're so mad at them. And then you feel guilty for being mad. And then you start to cry. So what I discovered was really destroying me in that time wasn't just the grief. It was judging myself for how I felt. Oh my God, I just laughed with my friends, but she only died a week ago. Like, what a horrible person I am. Or just so you know, like, I don't think we talked about this. I did not cry for 3.5 months after she died. I did not cry. And this is why I think I love your show so much, because it shares stories. I cried 3.5 months later for the first time because in Idaho, I was listening to a podcast called The Moth, and a woman in her story said, grief is just love coming face to face with its oldest enemy. And I thought, and it was just her telling her story. She said this one line, I don't know why, but it broke in a good way. It broke this dam inside of me because someone had described it so perfectly. So for what it's worth, Whitney, a couple of things. One, I cannot, of course, you're exhausted. And I think recognizing that is important. But I also think for what it's worth, and this is coming from the outside, and maybe it's easier for me to say than it is to actually do because I'm not working the hours that you are. But the reason you're exhausted is because you're a goddamn warrior. And there is something about the phrase warrior that just brings strength to people. And what you're doing is fighting battles that other people are bitching about. Right? Like, oh my God, I'm stuck at home and I have to do my podcast from home. Not that you guys are saying it, or whatever trailer down by whatever river he's living, right? So how do you keep the leadership mindset? It's not your job to keep the leadership mindset. It's the job of everybody who you're serving to recognize that you are a leader. And even if they don't, I think that recognizing that at the end of all of this, 5 years from now, no matter how hard it is now, you will be prouder of yourself and you will deserve it much more compared to other people, all right? I think that the ability to put ourselves forward in time and look back on where we are now is so important. I wish I had a way of solving how you must feel every day, but I do want to say this. By getting up every day and getting exhausted, that is the leadership mindset. It is saying, I will do this even when it's hard. And like, look, this idea that I have 6 questions to try to do good things, look, I'm not a good guy. And I think that when you do a lollipop TED Talk or you speak, people assume you're a motivational speaker. They're looking for like this big upbeat guy. I'm so angry. I'm so pissed. I'm so cynical. But I don't want to treat the world like that. And so the reason I come up with these 6 questions isn't because I'm a good guy. It's because I'm a demon-filled guy. And these 6 questions are the process that I put in place between my darkest impulses and the way that I actually interact with the world. And I think that what happens is, maybe even Whitney, you're feeling this, is like, oh my God, I feel this way. It's wrong to feel this way. Look, somewhere along the way, somebody convinced us, these fucking gurus, that it's all about living life with love and being grateful every day. And look, you should do that, but it's also not how most people's lives work, right? Like, if you feel anger and jealousy, and when your friend asks you to move, your first response in your own head is fuck you, and then you immediately like, oh my God, that's my friend, I shouldn't think that. It is not negative thoughts that make you a bad person, and they're not character flaws. However, if you take your bad thoughts and turn them and allow them to go out there and be a dick, that's where there's a lack of leadership. So you don't have to have the leadership mindset. What you're doing is you're doing the leadership actions. And look, maybe not enough people are giving you credit for it, but you're a warrior, and God, now I do sound like a motivational speaker. And so,
well, I'm feeling motivated. So
you don't have to be more than what you're doing. You don't have to adopt a new mindset. And right now you probably don't have time to add more value to the world through doing other shit. And guess what? The rest of us, it's our job to pick up your slack. And if you can't empower someone today, or you can't recognize someone else's leadership today, or do some moment of kindness or forgiveness because you need 15 minutes of sleep anytime you can get it, tell you what, I think we should pick up the slack. And for anybody else who's watching here, Whitney, keep being a warrior, and we'll do the leadership mindset for you in the meantime. And I will tell you, there's a whole bunch of people out there who don't give a shit. I bet you a whole lot more who do. And I think that instead of just saying, hey, let's support our frontline healthcare workers, I think what we need to do is commit to doing the good deeds that you don't have time to and you don't have the energy to because you're doing something bigger. Damn, that was a rant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fucking
dude, yes.
That was like